you know, I've been living in China for a couple of years now. And when I look back to when I first arrived in China, it's like I'm living two completely different worlds. Language in the beginning was a really big barrier, and without the ability to communicate was super complicated for me. I mean, I couldn't even order a taxi by myself and tell the taxi driver where I wanted to go. I couldn't buy food or ask questions about the food I was buying. I even struggled with language barrier when I was in restaurants ordering food. But now I could consider myself as somewhat half a Chinese. I can navigate my way through the city. I can get myself from point A to point B, asking questions about where we're going. I can order food, I can ask questions about that food, and I can pretty much do anything I need to do without any help. So it wasn't always a smooth transition, because in the beginning, we couldn't communicate. I couldn't communicate with Chinese people, and they couldn't communicate back to me. They were speaking, I wasn't understanding, and I was speaking and they weren't understanding. So even though now my life is convenient and comfortable, before I really experienced all these struggles, and I really wish that someone would have told me about the things I would have experienced here in China before I came. So how I adapted to life in China was kind of challenging. I mean, some experiences were hilarious and others were kind of unexpected, but I came out the other end and I think it's a good story. So that's why I want to share with you my story on how I overcame the Chinese language barrier. And before we begin, stop, like, and subscribe. Let's keep going. Language is a very important thing, and when you can't communicate, it can really make situations very awkward or just make your life a little bit miserable, or even make you kind of antisocial. But even though, sometimes you can still meet people here in China who can speak English, right? And some people can even speak it fluently. But taxi drivers, bus drivers, shop assistants, and almost anyone else you come across in your day-to-day life don't speak or understand any English. But I have figured out a way to deal with it, because now I can understand some Chinese and I can also speak a little bit of basic Chinese. So now I'm going to share with you my story and some tips and tricks about how to deal with the language barrier here in China. Okay, so we just came to Starbucks now and we got a cup of coffee, and we were trying to show you now like how I normally order my coffee, but they didn't allow us to film. And like it was actually the most perfect example, because like that was the language barrier that I experience every day here in China. So I'll show you how I actually did it. I took a photo of the menu and then I zoomed in on what I want, and I pointed to her like, I want this one. But I could only do this because this one has Chinese and English on it. So normally, like if you go to KFC or McDonald's, then you'll find this like Chinese and English on the menu, but it's not always like that, because actually in China, everything else is in Chinese. Menus, street signs, posters, the maps, everything else is in Chinese. But I do have the solution, so here comes my crash course. Come here. So the best solution is actually to find yourself a Chinese lover. No, I'm just kidding. Like if you do have a Chinese friend or a Chinese language partner to help you along the way, of course that is going to be useful too. But if not, then of course, like I said, all restaurants and stuff do normally have pictures, and pictures can be really, really informative. And like besides that, you can actually go on to WeChat and use the WeChat Translate. It allows you to take a photo and actually translate what you want, and then you can read like whatever the Chinese says all in English, and then decide what you want to order. So when I first came to China, I was totally relying on translations app. Like they were my life. I translated everything. If I wanted a spoon, or if I wanted like spicy sauce, I would translate it. So this is what I would do. I would go and then type the English sentence saying, I want a spoon, and then so funny, I would show the waiter this like, hello, this one, and then if they didn't understand that, because sometimes it doesn't translate 100%, then I would go ahead and I would translate the word just by itself again, like wait, don't go anywhere, and then I would translate, and hopefully they would understand that, because like obviously I didn't know if the translation was 100% correct. And then I would wait a couple of minutes, and then maybe my spoon would arrive, maybe not. But I did manage a little bit, and along the way with always translating, I thought, you know what, I need to actually learn some Chinese. And once I started learning a bit from friends and asking questions more about it, I found Chinese is super interesting, and actually I love learning it. So this is where it all started, and this is where I began my Chinese language learning. So my top 2, and they are my favorite sentences to say, is I don't understand and I don't speak Chinese. So I don't speak Chinese is 我不会说中文, and I don't understand is 我听不懂. So it's really funny actually when I use those two for many times over and over again. Funny things would happen. So I would say to an old man, 我不会说中文, and he would then say oh, 你中文这么好, and I would be like, I just said I don't speak Chinese, and now you're speaking Chinese to me. And also sometimes when I say I don't understand, 我听不懂, then someone will then again say oh, where are you from in Chinese, 你是哪里人? And it's just really funny to encounter these things, you're saying you don't understand and you don't speak the language, and then they continue to talk to you. So another one of my favorite sentences to use is 我要 and 我不要, which means I want and I don't want. So 要 means want, and the 我 means I, right? So 我要 and the 我不要, those are really useful, and you can then go and teach yourself some ways to say other words with your translation apps. So for example, if you want the word bag, you can then translate the word bag, and then you can say 我要袋子, which is bag. So you can play around with that, and if you don't want to play around, then you can use the word this, which is 我要这个. So if you want this in the store, you can point to it and you say 我要这个, and if you don't want something, 我不要这个. So it allows you then to actually use the language in an easier way. Another really easy one to learn is how much, and that we say 多少钱. So this is really nice when you go to the store. You can actually ask someone how much is something, and then alongside that goes your numbers. 1 to 10 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then from there you can actually learn how to count up. So for example, 28, you would say 2 plus 10 and then 8. So you would say 28, and if you want to learn up to 100, you would use the word 百. So 100, which is 100, 190, which is 190. For example, if you wanted to buy a bottle of water and you wanted to ask how much it is, so you could grab the bottle of water and you could say 你好, which is hello, 这个多少钱, which is this, how much money, how much does it cost? So let me repeat that one more time. 你好, 这个多少钱? And they would say 4块, which means 4 yuan. So the kuai is actually their measure word for money, just like dollars or something, like $4. They say 4块. So don't forget that when you go to the store, because I was really confused in the beginning. I was like, why are they always throwing this word behind the money? But now I understand that it's their measure word for money. So although I really love Chinese and I'm learning new words on the daily, and I'm loving that I'm immersing myself into the culture here, it is really difficult. And I think the main reason why us foreigners think it is difficult is because there are the 4 tones and we don't always know how to pronounce them perfectly. But thank you to all the Chinese people I've ever come across and spoken to, because they've actually understood my Chinese, and my Chinese is nowhere near perfect. So every time I think foreigners don't have perfect tones, Chinese people seem to still understand us. So yeah, it's actually really great. And it's nice that people are understanding that we don't have perfect Chinese, and that you understand us, we understand you if you speak a little bit slower. So yeah, it's really cool. My coffee is finished, so let's go outside and get some fresh air and have a walk. So even though my Chinese is not perfect, I've come a long way since day one, where I was using the translation app and translating sentences, where now I can converse a little bit and tell people what I want or where I want to go. So I'm really grateful that Chinese people actually understand my Chinese. So 谢谢你们 and 再见. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye!